You might think you've seen some messed up stuff on TikTok, but trust me, nothing compares to Brandon Brootal. This guy didn't just crave attention, he completely shattered every boundary of decency, diving headfirst into accusations of pedophilia, and even having the audacity to deny it all. He went to extreme lengths for relevancy, and I stayed up all night piecing together this horror show just to bring you the full story. So buckle up, because this one is seriously disturbing.
I live in a town where there's like no emo girls and no scene girls, and it sucks. Just all these basic bitches. But listen to Taylor Swift. Ew, Taylor Swift is disgusting. Hey everybody, so I'm in my old hood, bruh. I'm out here.
So Brandon Brootal came crashing onto TikTok in 2020, and it was hard to miss. In practically no time, he pulled in over 1.4 million followers, and people were hooked. Why? Because he was a walking flashback to the emo era, like he stepped out of 2008 and never left. His look was signature emo, black skinny jeans that could have been painted on, band tees from icons like Mike Inner that would make a raccoon envious.
Drink can, part 2.
So far, I can't forget you! I'll put your name into my soul, I'll be a fire to get.
Brandon knew his audience. He knew how to tap into the wave of nostalgia for those who missed the days of dramatic hair and angsty lyrics.
To harass people and talk to minors. So the hacker was the one who used my old Facebook to talk to that minor and to ask that minor, that 15-year-old, for nudes. I wasn't the one asking her for nudes. I wasn't the one talking to her that way. The hacker.
But he wasn't just about the aesthetic. Brandon had this way of talking that drew people in. He delivered these intense, passionate speeches about staying true to yourself and not letting haters bring you down. It resonated with people who still craved that raw emo energy, and his motivational rants made fans feel like he understood them. It wasn't just about looking the part. He embodied it in a way that felt real to his followers. For a while, he was a beacon of emo culture, convincing his audience to embrace their inner outcast. And long before Brandon Brootal hit the TikTok fame jackpot and became the internet's beloved emo blast from the past, his reputation was already on shaky ground. We're talking about a man who wasn't exactly winning the popularity contest back.
I'm being a poser, fake, or wannabe at all. Because I'm comfortable with myself, I'm secure in it, and this is what I really like, and this is who I am.
People didn't just think he was strange, they were genuinely freaked out. Stories circulated about unsettling behavior, stuff that made parents give him a wide berth at community events. Trust me, this wasn't just your typical small-town rumor mill working overtime. These were stories that left people side-eyeing him for a good reason. Then enter the era of TikTok fame. He declared with this oddly aggressive tone, "I only date women who are 21 and up, preferably."
To be my friend, you have to be 18 and up. You want to date me, you have to be 21 and up. Why? Because I'm not no Davey Vanity.
Yeah, because that's exactly what an innocent person would emphasize, right? Instead of putting concerns to rest, it just made everyone side-eye him even harder. Oh, but Brandon didn't stop there. No, he took it to a whole new level by going on these epic, fiery rants. He had an ex-girlfriend who, according to him, was out for blood. He blamed her for masterminding some elaborate vendetta to ruin his life.
Some stuff went around that made me look bad, made it hard to get emo girlfriend, but I do feel really lonely, like I really want an emo girlfriend to grow old and happy with, but I'm gonna keep my head up. I'm gonna find that one girl for me one day, so.
The problem wasn't just a he said, she said scenario anymore. As more people dug into his past, actual evidence started surfacing. Screenshots, people sharing their first-hand encounters, all these bits and pieces that painted a picture way too detailed to ignore. Suddenly, it wasn't just some angry ex spreading gossip. It was a storm of serious allegations gaining traction.
This again, because people in my town don't understand. I'm only friends with people who are about 18 and up, and I only date women who are 21 and up, basically. 20 maybe, but 21 and up, preferably. So,
As Brandon's fame skyrocketed, so did the intensity of the backlash. It was like the internet collectively decided to turn into detectives, digging into everything he'd ever said or done, and the things they found, yikes. The once local rumors had gone national, plastered all over social media. Real people were coming forward with real stories, and Brandon's increasingly frantic attempts to explain himself just weren't cutting it.
And you're the guy with the curly hair, with the girl with the black hair, who sometimes says hi to me? I'm sorry if I ever pointed a weapon at you. Like I said, I thought your vehicle is kind of like the other vehicle of this other bitch who's harassing me. So I'm sorry if I did that to you. I don't mean any aggressiveness or hate towards you.
Let's talk about those defenses. If you thought they were airtight, think again. One moment he'd say all the damning messages were totally photoshopped. The next thing he'd claim his account had been hacked. It was like he couldn't pick a story and stick with it. Watching him try to wiggle out of accusations was like watching a bad soap opera plot. And honestly, for someone so insistent on his innocence, you'd think his explanations would be a bit more coherent. Instead, they felt as solid as wet tissue paper.
But towards the bitch that is in that vehicle, who keeps saying shit to me when she goes by, like, oh, you're better off gay, or stuff like, you're fake or poser. I don't know. What I'm gonna say is something very serious on here. People are lucky.
The most shocking part of Brandon Brootal's downward spiral was those explicit online conversations that emerged. In 2023, detailed screenshots surfaced, showing him engaging with someone he believed was a minor. And it was ugly. This wasn't some ambiguous chat that people could debate over. No, these were graphic, unfiltered exchanges where he made requests. No self-respecting adult, let alone a 35-year-old, should ever direct at a teenager. We're talking about conversations so clear-cut and disgusting that they made everyone who read them feel like they needed a shower.
Make my snuggle kitten. I'm sorry. I'm getting really creepy, but anyway.
And it gets worse. Brandon wasn't in the dark about the age of the person he was messaging. He acknowledged it several times, almost like he wanted to remind himself, but it didn't stop him. Instead, he just bulldozed right through the moral stop signs, ignoring every blaring red flag. The person he was talking to was actually a decoy, someone posing as a minor to catch predators. And Brandon, he fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker, escalating from small talk to requests for inappropriate images without skipping a beat. Then came the voice messages. If you thought texts were bad, these were a whole new level of creepy.
Make my snuggle kitten. I'm sorry. I'm getting really creepy, but anyway, yeah, I was looking in her eyes and it made me feel shit. It made me feel like a lot of warm, fuzzy, blissful shit, and then I started to have...
Brandon used bizarrely affectionate terms like snuggle kitten, and described cringe-worthy romantic scenarios that were beyond uncomfortable. Imagine a grown man trying to sound tender while admitting he knew he was being grossly inappropriate. He talked about wanting to snuggle and hold you close, while fully acknowledging that the whole thing was wrong.
You close and snuggling you and just being with you and putting a ring on you. I fall in love with women really fast, okay? I'm trying not to.
The casual, almost dreamy tone he used made it 100 times worse. Like he's convinced himself this was some tragic love story, instead of a sick fantasy. People who heard these recordings were horrified, and no amount of hopeless romantic excuses could soften the impact.
Shirts. And my ex, Sammy, gets my eyeliner, black hair dye, my black nail polish, door dashed to my room on either Tuesday or Wednesday, then I'll be happier and looking the emo way I usually look.
The public's reaction was swift and merciless. Fans who once adored Brandon for his emo throwback style were appalled, and the cheerful guy who made goofy videos to My Chemical Romance songs suddenly felt like a character from a horror movie. It was as if every attempt he made to look charming and quirky were shattered in an instant, and people couldn't distance themselves from him fast enough. His innocent, misunderstood emo act now felt like a grotesque joke, and his desperate attempts to explain himself only made things worse.
Well, adult women. Like I said, you can't break something that's already broken. You already think of me as a kid, so it doesn't matter if you think I'm a creep too. So, whatever. So yeah, I gotta go.
And if you think Brandon handled the backlash gracefully, think again. Instead of showing remorse, he went full throttle into aggression mode. His history of making threats wasn't new. but this time it escalated to a terrifying degree. One of the most infamous incidents involved him threatening a local school.
So what I want to say in this video is I'm in a little bit of trouble. I went to court and I got told I could face up to 60 days in prison. Cause a few years ago, I was skateboarding and people were going by harassing me on the road. And so I was swinging my skateboard around. And then someone saw me swinging my skateboard around and called the police.
Apparently some kids there mocked him, calling him a predator and making fun of his emo persona. Instead of brushing it off like a normal person, Brandon publicly threatened to get rid of the school. Yeah, he really said that, and it was serious enough that the police had to step in. Suddenly his emo aesthetic wasn't the only thing making people uncomfortable. Now he was a legitimate threat.
So when I showed up for court like a few days ago, they said I could face up to 60 days in prison. But, you know, I called my court-appointed attorney, but the girl answered instead of my attorney. And I talked to her a bit, and she said it's not likely that, she knows about my case, and she said it's not likely that I'm gonna go to prison.
And it didn't stop there. Rewind to March 2020, when Brandon allegedly flipped out at a Walmart, threatening to grab an AK-47 and shoot up the place because he thought people were videotaping him. The store employees were terrified, and the cops had to get involved to defuse the situation.
I don't want to go to prison because I have to take this out, my lip piercing out.
Later that same year, he was linked to a bomb threat at a university, and it became clear that whenever Brandon felt cornered, his go-to move was to lash out violently. He wasn't just some troubled guy in eyeliner anymore, he was dangerous, and people around him knew it. The bizarre cherry on top was Brandon's obsession with violent figures. He'd compare himself to infamous offenders, claiming he was misunderstood like some kind of anti-hero. He even referenced Broly from Dragon Ball Z, boasting about his strength and vowing to make anyone who mocked him regret it.
It's just your other friend hitting on her. The thing is, I'm very well that this shit is all creepy. But I really don't care because you both think I'm a kid to her. So you can't break what's already broken, so.
If you dared to criticize him, even for something small, prepare for a world of threats. Trolls who made fun of his eyeliner or questioned his innocence became instant targets. He'd spew out promises of revenge, saying things like he'd make them suffer, or enjoy seeing their regret. His rage was relentless and unhinged, and it didn't matter how justified the criticism was. The more his world fell apart, the more erratic he became, and the cycle of violence and delusion only deepened. And after hearing all that, the first question that pops up is, what on earth was going on with Brandon Brootal's family? Because trust me, it's a mess. His home life was the perfect storm of dysfunction, starting with his bizarre, almost comically tragic relationship with his father.
Oh my god! What the f? Holy look at that! What the f? Dude, let's check out this right here. Oh, look at that! Ew! Food just sitting there like that. That's gross, yo!
You can think of a 35-year-old man still living under his dad's roof, but with a twisted spin. Brandon referred to his dad as his roommate. It sounded like he was trying to put a cute, ironic label on it. There was nothing playful about their situation. One confrontation stands out as a peak family disaster. It happened live on one of Brandon's infamous streams. There he was in full rant mode, voice raised and eyeliner smudged, when his elderly father, clearly fed up with the late-night noise, burst into the room. Now most people would apologize or at least try to defuse the situation, right? Not Brandon. Nope. He flipped out, shouting back at his dad and taking the argument into the stratosphere of absurdity.
Whoa, look at I don't like Diet Coke.
He humiliated his dad in public multiple times. In one particularly cringeworthy TikTok, he gave his followers a house tour, which turned out to be more of a public shaming of his father's living conditions. The camera panned over his dad's room, which was basically a hoarder's paradise. Piles of trash, empty bottles of booze scattered like grim decorations, and a grimy sheetless mattress that looked like it hadn't seen better days in decades. Instead of helping or keeping this mess private, Brandon put it out there for clout, making sarcastic comments about the room's state.
Mortal ass bullets, nothing but dust. I wasn't doing nothing. I'm trying to go to sleep. I'm trying to get ready for bed.
That's why you're talking?
No, I'm
I heard you in my fucking room.
No, I'm trying to get ready for bed and you're interrupting me.
Interrupting for go to bed? Dude, what I come here for? I'm in my room. My TV full blast. I hear you.
Yeah, I want to go to bed.
And so you were going to bed, and so you got to talk to yourself before you go to bed? We're going to talk about this, man. You guys got to talk. You got to...
This dynamic painted a grim picture of his home life. Here was Brandon, an adult clinging desperately to his teenage emo phase, living in a crumbling household with a father who seemed just as trapped. Their fights, the hoarding, the frustration, it was all a perfect recipe for dysfunction. And instead of escaping, Brandon thrived on the drama. He used it as content, feeding off the chaos like it was his lifeblood. As Brandon's TikTok fame collapsed, so did his mental stability. His bitterness over being rejected, both online and real life, became a dark theme in his content.
It just turns women off. And it makes me lose so many chances with women. Arrgh. I don't want to become violent to where I get violent towards a woman when I get rejected, because that's just not me. But being rejected as much as I get rejected?
He started aligning himself with incel ideology, openly comparing himself to men who are involuntarily celibate and harbor twisted resentment toward women. It wasn't subtle or casual. He ranted about how no one wanted him because of his reputation and how that rejection gnawed at his soul. It was disturbing to see how quickly he spiraled into a mindset that caused real-world violence, how his anger morphed into something sinister and twisted.
Man, there's incels, complete ugly incels who are complete assholes who can get more adult women than me, than I ever could. You know why? Because no one thinks they're into minors.
And of course, Brandon wasn't content just talking about rejection. No, he went further, making comments about wanting to harm women who turned him down. His rage wasn't just emotional, it was dark and dangerously close to manifesting. He openly talked about understanding why some men snap, and hinted that he was nearing that breaking point himself. These weren't empty threats, they were serious glimpses into a mind unraveling, and people watching couldn't help but be genuinely alarmed.
Look like a fucking making me look like Davey Vanity.
Then there was his creepy obsession with a fellow emo community member named Kat. Brandon's infatuation crossed every line imaginable. He admitted to saving pictures of her, and even using them in grossly inappropriate ways. Despite Kat's clear boundaries and the fact that she had a boyfriend, Brandon's fantasies didn't waver. He would talk about her in disturbing, romanticized ways, as if he had some deranged right to her attention. It wasn't just unrequited love, it was a full-blown, obsessive fixation that screamed red flag to anyone paying attention.
He has allegations against him for being a child predator after falling for some bait online. Screenshots of him talking to the alleged minor began to circulate the internet. Meanwhile, my information was within these screenshots. These were the same screenshots being used for other influencers and people online to tell their friends and tell their audiences.
As Brandon's paranoia grew, his behavior became even more erratic. Got kicked out of motels, yes, more than one, because he was loudly making threats or spouting off paranoid rants. Imagine being a guest in one of these places and hearing a grown man on the phone yelling unhinged threats that left everyone on edge. It got so bad that motel management had to step in, and Brandon ended up sleeping in his car near a gas station. He couldn't let go of the chaos, couldn't stop spiraling, and his downward trajectory was only accelerating.
My name and my information is being put out there under a negative light for something that I'm not involved in and I never asked to be involved in. After the allegations were publicized and I blocked Brandon, he went live walking down a street that I recognize in our city. He claims to be looking for me, saying that if he just knew where I lived, he would show up at my front door.
And after all this, Brandon Brootal's downfall wasn't just gradual. It was an absolute collapse marked by serious legal trouble and public meltdowns. His first run-in with the law happened when he was charged with impeding traffic. This wasn't just a minor misunderstanding. Brandon had been swinging his skateboard wildly in the middle of a busy road, forcing drivers to slam their brakes and swerve to avoid him. When the case went to court, he didn't bother to show up, showing a complete disregard for the consequences.
He's also telling his viewers to reach out to me for him and to get me to talk to him. The point of this video was to just clear up any confusion and to publicly state that I am not associated with him and I want no part in this.
Things escalated quickly in February 2024. He made headlines again when he threatened a local school after students mocked him. They called him a predator and hurled insults, and instead of ignoring it, Brandon responded with a TikTok rant, suggesting he might get rid of the school. Authorities took this threat seriously, and he was charged with making violent threats.
So it's completely gone now, it's not gonna happen anymore. So that's good. So let my friend Kat know that. And I wanna be honest about something. Not that long ago, okay, I had a picture of Cat Catastrophe in my phone.
His defense? He claimed he was being misunderstood and that his words were twisted, but given his history of erratic behavior, no one was buying it. House arrest was the court's solution, and it did nothing to stabilize him. Living under house arrest was a nightmare. His home life and his father were already dysfunctional. His father struggled with hoarding, and tensions between them often turned explosive. Their environment was chaotic and unsafe, and Brandon's behavior only made it worse.
I'm Brootal! Hit me, come on, hit me. You're out here. Good. Hit me, motherfucker. Hit me. Come on. Hit me. Hit your dad. Motherfucker. It's nothing.
When he couldn't be contained, he ended up homeless, sleeping in his car near a gas station to stay within house arrest boundaries. His paranoia and aggression kept scaring motel guests nearby, leading to more police involvement. As Brandon's mental state continued to unravel, his threats became even more disturbing. He made references to violent offenders and painted himself as a victim pushed to the edge, vowing revenge on critics and anyone he felt wronged him. His obsession with violence was no longer just talk, it was a growing danger.
And not that long ago, I was kind of off to it a little. I don't care if you let her know about that. She already knows I like her that way, so she already knows I like her that way. I still would like to just be friends with her because I know she has a boyfriend and she doesn't like me that way, so I still want to just be friends with her again.
Eventually, his offenses caught up with him and he was incarcerated. Brandon, once a TikTok emo sensation, had transformed into a figure defined by rage, threats, and a legacy of chaos. If you're as hooked on this wild ride of chaos and can't believe how far it went, smash that like button and subscribe button and drop a comment down below about the most unbelievable meltdown you've ever witnessed online.